Hello and welcome to GYDA Talks, Grow Your Digital Agency Initiative Talks. And today I'm absolutely delighted to have with me Jason Barnard. And without further ado, hello, Jason.
Hello, how are you doing, Rob?
Absolutely fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So you are known as the kind of the brand SERP guy. So without further ado, my first question is always going to be, what are you known for? So tell me, what are you known for?
Well, I'm known for the brand SERPs. In fact, it's a name I gave myself because I really want to nail that position. I'm nailing my flag to the mast, as it were, saying exact match brand searches and the results that come up are something that we aren't looking into enough. And I'm looking into it. I've got a collection of 75,000 entities, 45,000 brands across 10 different countries. And I'm tracking what appears when people search exact match brand names such as Microsoft or Apple or Jason Barnard or Calicube, my company. And what comes up is phenomenally interesting, and people in the industry are starting to get on board. But it's a struggle because everyone says it's easy and it's obvious, which it isn't, and it isn't.
Well, we talked before we came on board. We kind of talked about, evidence-based approaches and research-based approaches to things. So you've given us some numbers there. What is the kind of the connection between listening to what you say and running a better business?
Right, I like the question. The thing about it is if you're looking at Google Search Console, first thing to do, look in Google Search Console and filter your brand searches, the exact match ones, the ones that are your brand, Calicube in my case. And it can vary from 5% to 95%. Now, if you're in the 95%, that's a lot of brand awareness relative to your SEO performance in general, but people are searching your brand name and seeing that brand SERP phenomenal amount of time, a phenomenal number of times. A lot of those people are likely to be your existing clients. And you have that thing as well, as if your competitors are on there, or bad review or bad press. Obviously, your existing clients are going to be attracted by your competitor and put off by the bad review. If it's a new client, they might be stolen by the competitor or put off by the bad review. And a lot of the time people say, well, I don't have a bad review and I don't have a competitor, so I'm okay. And you're saying, well, why don't you think about how good it could get? This is your business card. This is what people are looking at. It's like the equivalent of your business card. I used to go into my clients, and this is my story, and it's not big data based, but we can come to that later on.
So can we just go back? So you, and I saw on your thing, brand SERPs are your new business card, quote unquote. Brand SERPs are your new business card, which I love because that's kind of a really interesting way of looking at it. A reflection of your brand's digital ecosystem.
Yep.
And an honest critique of your online marketing strategy.
That's genius, Rob. Where did you cut that from?
I did a quick search to find that stuff. Could you just unpick that? Brand SERPs are your new business card. Okay.
Right. Well, that's what I use for marketers. I say to a marketer, your brand SERP is your new business card. And marketers go, I get that, because they're the kind of people, marketers and salespeople, they're people who go in front of people and convince them to consider purchasing or doing business. And they realize that when somebody searches the brand name, they're looking at the equivalent of the modern business card. And the example I was going to give you is I used to go and see my clients. I would pitch and pitch, and I would go, yeah, I'm great. This is going to be wonderful. And I would walk out and I think, that's sold. But I would still only convert about 60%. Then I improved my brand SERP, and what came up, what comes up now, if you search Jason Barnard, is a lovely knowledge panel on the right-hand side, sorry, my site at the top, search engine journal, some videos, some Twitter boxes, maybe some images, SEMrush, word lift, all of these things that credibilize me, if that's a proper word, in digital marketing. So now my clients convert at about 80%, and nobody haggles about the price. Now that isn't big data; it's one example.
And so your argument, I'm just trying to understand it. So your argument is that if you've got your house in order, then when people are looking for you, you come across as more professional, you come across as an authority, you come across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the page, so to speak. And therefore you're ahead of the competition, as opposed to a situation where they might search for you and they might see the ads of 5 or 6 other people who are trying to elbow you out of the way.
Well, yeah, ads is another additional problem that we can put to one side. But if you come back a step and you say, what I do with my brand SERP is control it. I control my message. I control the message, as you say, authoritative. I control it to the point at which I'm more or less deciding what will rank and what text is showing in both the blue links and the descriptions. And that means control of my brand message means I can push out a really positive, accurate, and authoritative, convincing message to anybody who's actually looking for me. You look thoughtful.
Yeah, I am. I'm wondering how is this? So is this is what you're saying a unique perspective? Or
I don't know anybody else who looks at it this way. If you talk to the local search guys, they'll all say it's not your business card, it's your homepage, which is taking it another step further. In terms of marketers, this is how I present it to marketers. It's not how I would present it to an SEO professional, for example, or a digital marketer, or somebody who's kind of fairly advanced. I mean, basically, it's your business card is just an easy way to explain to somebody so they can visualize what it is I'm talking about and who their audience or who the audience of this brand SERP is.
But what you've done is you've kind of taken, but you're smoking your own dope, so to speak. You're eating your own dog food, whatever phrase you want to use.
I've got no idea what you mean, but keep going.
Well, you know that this is kind of an American phrase, but it's a niche, but you're actually dominating in your presentation because of your knowledge within the niche.
Well, I think the point is it's a niche in the sense that nobody else is talking about it. It's not a niche in the sense that everybody needs it. And in entity-based search, whether it's people, brands, products, events, music groups, it doesn't matter. Any entity is going to have an entity SERP, so you can actually push it further than just brands. But if I started talking about entity SERPs, I would only ever get 5 or 6 clients and the people who actually talk about entity-based search. And the idea for me is to get marketers involved. And then we can move on to the next step, which is it's a really easy entry into SEO and digital marketing because it's an easy way to visualize your digital ecosystem, which is the second point in that list. And any idiot can look at it and say, okay, this is good, this is bad, this is accurate, this is positive, and this is convincing, yes or no. Anybody can do that. And you look at it and you kind of say, okay, now what can I do to improve it? Now, if you're an SEO expert, you'll go, all the old tricks will work, and it's really easy. And it's a controlled environment, which means that you can take any person who doesn't know very much or anything about SEO, and they can practice on something that's controlled and easy to deal with, and generally easy to affect the rankings and what's being shown and so on and so forth. So there are 2 things there, one of which is any marketer can look at it and read it and understand what's right and wrong with their digital ecosystem. Is their social media good? Is there people saying nice things about them, bad things about them? Because it's a reflection of what Google thinks the world thinks about you. What's valuable to your audience, what's helpful and relevant to your audience. And that means, and from my point of view, I wouldn't bother going to a marketing agency that was selling me an incredible insight into all these different channels that they're pulling in all over the place. You say, just look at your brand SERP, takes you 20 minutes, and you'll already have very big pointers to where you're going wrong and where you're going right. And that idea of saying, and I like this as well, and I've got these brand SERP courses, and I've got a few agencies on board, and they're buying the brand SERP courses in order to give it to new people in their company so that they can get their teeth into SEO with very little risk and lots of success and lots of kind of things that change, things that you manage to affect directly. So kind of you immediately feel really good about yourself because you change your meta title on your homepage and it shows up, bingo, right off the bat.
So isn't managing your brand SERP just really simple SEO?
It is, but it teaches you every trick in the book in SEO. Because you've got videos, you've got Twitter boxes, you've got your homepage, you've got all those rich site links that you want to trigger. 50% of brands do not have rich site links. That's rubbish. That's great site structure. It's using schema markup. It's writing proper meta titles, meta descriptions. It's removing no index from the pages such as contact us that could potentially appear that or about us. It's managing your knowledge panel, which is surprisingly easy to do and surprisingly effective. I've managed to get it down to, I can trigger a knowledge panel in 2 minutes for certain types of things, and I can change the description in a knowledge panel I control in 8 minutes flat.
So here's the thing. So I currently work with a rather well-known pure PPC agency. They pride themselves on being pure PPC, and they've just introduced a sort of an SEO. So they call it content management, but an SEO because we're modern and we're in 2020. But it's kind of SEO department really, and they've got real problems. They've got real problems integrating SEO mindset into PPC mindset, because PPC, as we know, is very pointy headed, and it's kind of very, very transactional, and it's kind of very black and white. So it sounds to me like you're saying that you could use, and the problem they have is the sales team don't understand how to sell SEO. They understand how to do PPC. They don't understand how to sell video, because video is just way too complicated. But they understand how to sell PPC. They really are first class in the results they get within PPC. But I guess one of the things that's coming through to me is that an easy entree and an easy understanding for their people, rather than saying here's the SEO playbook, go to Brighton and spend a week digesting stuff so you can figure out what the hell's going on. That actually Brand SERP is a easy, more palatable entree to
that's a really nice way of putting it. I mean, I think what you're saying is it's focused and it's isolated and it's a controlled environment, and that's the other thing is kind of, I think what you're leading on to is SEO. The SEO community is still having trouble letting go of the blue links and the descriptions, and ranking #1 in the blue links and the descriptions. And I mean, I did an article in Search Engine Journal about Darwinism in search, which is about how those rich elements, the video boxes, the Twitter boxes, the knowledge panels and so on, get their place on the SERP. And the Brand SERP is phenomenally rich and, once again, controlled. And so you can really see how that that's the Darwinistic system comes into play. And then I interviewed Nathan Chalmers from Bing, who's the whole page algorithm guy at Bing. And you realize how much they have a reorganization on top of all these different algorithms. They have an algorithm for the blue links, then they have another one for the videos, they have another one for the feature snippets, all built on the same kind of block set of basic algorithms, and both feeding into, all feeding into the different algorithms. For example, BERT, and in Bing's case, it's Turing. The descriptions under the blue links use that. The featured snippets use that explicitly. That's Ali Alvi from Bing who explained it to me. The knowledge panel uses it. And so they're all feeding into different algorithms and bringing their results together. And they're saying, here's the videos we think you should be showing. Here's the images we think you should be showing. And they put in a bid of value to the user. And then the whole page algorithm just comes in and says, all right, we'll have that, we won't have that, we won't have that, we'll have that, and we'll take that, we'll move this one up or down. And what I found very, very interesting about that is John Mueller and Gary Lewis will say to us all day long, click-through rate doesn't play into the algorithm. Because the question they're being asked is, does it play into the blue link algorithm? The answer is, of course it bloody doesn't. But it does play into the whole page algorithm, and it's the fundamental element of the whole page algorithm. Nathan Chalmers from Bing is saying this explicitly. He says, we look at user behavior and that's how we organize the whole page. Now, I'll give you a trick, and I'll be surprised if anybody of the audience have heard of this before. Startpage.com. And this is good for your ads people as well. It's unfiltered blue link results from Google. Try looking something up on startpage.com and look up the same thing on Google. And in Brand SERPs, you will see how phenomenally different they are. The blue link algorithm has produced this list of results. And I did it for my name first because I was curious. And I experiment on myself like every good scientist or mad scientist, depending how you want to look at it.
Well, what are these drugs?
Yeah, well, exactly. And I mean, I've messed up a few times. I've got some horror stories about what I've done with my own brand SERP over the years and had to repair myself. But I've got good at repairing this stuff, so it's all right. But what you see is the blue links that come up are not the same blue links that are showing in the final results. So the whole page algorithm not only messes with the rich elements, and it decides we can put the videos in because those are relevant and valuable for Jason Barnard's audience and CaliCube's audience, put the Twitter boxes in because he's got an audience there, we'll put the knowledge panel in because he's got a knowledge panel because we know who he is and it's probable that they're looking for that person and not another person called Jason Barnard. But we will also move the blue links around to avoid repetition. If you look at Microsoft results, it's phenomenal. Microsoft is 10 blue links is 10 results from Microsoft.com. And on the final result that Google actually shows to people, one result remains. Just one, and it's their homepage. All the rest is messed with by the whole page algorithm in one way or another. The other thing, and that's why I said ads are interesting, and this is the one that completely blew my mind. On my name in startpage.com, there are 2 ads systematically, really badly targeted. For one of them's for Greek gods or something, and the other one is for is it genealogy, your family tree? I can't remember what it's called. And they get filtered out systematically, and that explains, if anybody from the ad industry as well who does Google ads, that would explain why some brand campaigns that seem to have no competition, and you look in Google ads and there is no competition, you're still paying 15, 20 cents a click instead of the 4 or 5 you should be paying. It's because that competition is hidden. It's never shown, but it still, I reckon, applies to the final bid. In fact, the bidding goes up and it shows the ad, but it shows it after it's made this competition with ads that will never show. That's so smart if you want to make loads of money.
So you're
Google.
So you're competing with hidden competition.
Yes. And I think if we did a research wider than that and looked at other keywords, you would find something similar going on because the whole the ads that Google are showing can be filtered out possibly at 2 stages. One would be by the Google Ads algorithm itself, but the other is by the whole page algorithm, who say, actually, no, these ads aren't going to help anybody, so we're not going to show them. And that's post bidding. That's post the moment you've actually bid for that place. So if it's the whole page algorithm, I'm guessing I'm right.
So just going back a bit, why?
Sorry, I told you I get a bit over enthusiastic.
No, that's good. I like enthusiastic. It's better than dull and boring. I hate the ones that go.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Why? Just going back a couple of places. Why do you think agencies often overlook knowledge graph?
Oh, crumbs! I can't imagine. Now that I've looked into it, now that I've understood. And now we're talking about entity-based search. I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to be looking into knowledge panels. It's phenomenally important. I mean, I talk about how I approach SEO to present it to my clients. What I say is, and we were talking about content earlier on, is don't create content for Google. Create, and yeah, that's completely what's the words? Pathetic thing that Gary Ellis and John Mueller say all the time, but I'm going to put it differently. Create it for a specific platform and a specific audience, the specific audience that engages on that platform, so the content exists and pays for itself standalone. It could be YouTube videos, it can be Twitter, it can be LinkedIn, it can be Medium articles, it can be any platform where you can create decent content that speaks to your audience and works with your audience, and then you repurpose it the other way around than we usually do, put it on your site in a repurposed form. So if you've done something for Facebook, your initial thing is small and quick, and then you repurpose it on your site as something bigger, a bigger blog article or a video, it doesn't really matter. Then you package that for Google. And the SEO aspect is taking content that's already paid for itself, hopefully on the other channels, or it had the intention of paying for itself on the other, standalone on the other channels, and repackaging it. Sorry, repurposing it and then presenting it, packaging it in a way that you can present it to Google. And there's 3 things you need to deal with Google, and it's only 3. Understanding. Google has to understand what your offer is, what that piece of content offers its users. It's not your users, it's your audience, it's their users. Number 2, credibility. If it has to choose between 2 different pieces of content that offer more or less the same thing, are you the more credible? That's all EAT. I call it credibility because I think credibility speaks better to people. But are you expert? Are you authority? Are you trustworthy? And is the content authoritative? Is it trustworthy? Is your brand authoritative? Is it trustworthy? And knowledge panel, obviously, if you want Google to understand that you're expert, authoritative, and trustworthy, it has to understand who you are. If it can't understand who you are, it can't apply those signals to your brand. Third thing is deliverability. It needs to be able to deliver the content either on the SERP, and that's a whole debate about on SERP SEO, in a featured snippet, for example, or be confident that you can deliver the content in a format that's appropriate to its user in their context. So it might need to be a video, or it might need to be text. It might need to be deliverable on mobile. And if you can't deliver on mobile, obviously it's not going to push them through to you. It's recommending your content as the best solution to its user's problem. So it needs to understand what you're offering so it can match it to what the person's asking for. It needs to understand you're the most credible solution, and it needs to be confident that you or it can deliver that content to its user to actually make it practical. And that's it. That's all we need to do. Isn't that simple?
And your argument is that the knowledge panel is kind of, it's the wrong phrase to say canary in the coal mine, but it's the knowledge panel is what overtly tells you how you're doing. It's kind of it's a measure of how you're doing.
Well, it's a measure that Google has understood who you are and what you do. I mean, that's another triplet that I've got. Google needs to understand who you are, what you do, and who your audience is, who potentially you can help. Which group of their users can you potentially help? And the knowledge panel says name of company, type of company, telecom company, whatever it might be. So it's understood who you are and what you do right off the bat. And then it's already obviously understood who your audience, potential audience is going to be. Now, the knowledge panel on your brand SERP is an interesting case because a lot of brands have knowledge panels, are present in the knowledge graph, but will not see them on their brand SERP.
Say that again slowly.
A lot of brands have got knowledge panels but don't know it.
Yep.
Or are in the knowledge graph and don't know it. And so it's important to understand when Google has triggered that understanding, either in the knowledge graph or by creating what I call sprouts. Now we got into gardening. You need to create your sprout or plant it. And that's a tiny little knowledge panel that just says name of company, and that's it. That's the smallest knowledge panel you will find, just the name of the company. Then add to that what type of company you can potentially add, who the founders were, or the logo is typically the next thing to come up. Then the official site. And that's basically the sprout growing. So you're nurturing your sprout into this kind of nice little plant that's pushing its little head out. That's when it will appear on your brand SERP. So in order to do that, you need to first of all figure out that it's there. Then you need to nourish it with information, corroborative information or corroboration of the information that it already has, and then provide it with more information, with more corroboration of that new information to grow it into a big knowledge panel, such as Microsoft or myself, Jason Barnard. If you search for that, you'll see the best knowledge panel in the world. Which is...
I have to go and have a look. I've got to go and have a look now.
Well, and what's interesting is finding those sprouts is not as easy as you would think. I have a tool called calicube.pro, and you can track your brand SERP, and it also tracks your presence in the knowledge graph, which will then show you when you have a sprout appear. So you can actually find these sprouts that way. There are multiple ways of finding them, but once you've found it, you know what you're feeding, you know what you're aiming at. And then you come into the technical aspect, which is putting the schema markup on your site. And that's the single most important thing for entity-based search and entities and knowledge panel. Every entity needs a recognized home that Google trusts, that Google feels is authoritative. And that home is your site. It's not somebody else's site. It's not Wikipedia. It's not Wikidata. It's your site. You find one page where you describe, and it's about us for a company, one page you describe who we are, what we do, and who we serve. And we'll come back to that triplet that I mentioned earlier on. And you add schema markup to point, well, basically, A, you explicitly say exactly what you said in the page, and B, you point to all the corroborative evidence, and that can be Wikipedia, Wikidata, Crunchbase, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of these sources to corroborate what it is you're saying. But if you don't make that home, that entity's home, your page on your website, you lose control. That's the only hope you have of control of your entity in Google's knowledge graph and in the future of search. That's a big statement.
I can't let you get away with that.
That's why I added it. I thought you might want to come in.
You can't. It's like a red rag to a bull. So, this is the year that video is going to be big. This is the year that SEO is going to die. We've been hearing this all since we were children.
Yes.
SEO is dead. Long live SEO. For the average sort of medium-sized business, so not the big ones, for the average medium-sized business, it's got a small marketing department. Mm. They struggle to know what they should be doing.
Right.
From extreme performance-based marketing all the way through to coloring in and everything in the middle. Because they can never decide whether it's about awareness or sales or about positioning or how do you see SEO panning out in the years to come?
Well, I mean, when I talk about this stuff all the time and creating a home for your entity and building up your entity's presence in Google's knowledge graph. And John Mueller keeps saying, you don't need to do that. The knowledge graph does it on its own. You don't need to do anything, which is fairly typical of Google. And what I've proved is you can actually improve, inform, expand, increase Google's confidence in its understanding of who you are, what you do, and who your audience is very easily. And it isn't very complicated. But once you get that, what I've seen with my clients is that once Google's got to grips with, and it's probably the most important aspect of that is who your audience is, and it's the third one in my list. So it's who you are, what you do, and who your audience is. Mm. And I've got clients, and I'm starting to put schema markup on their sites for audience. That works phenomenally well, as long as it's understood who you are and what you do, and it's understood what your content is. And putting audience in schema markup is a really neat trick to say, actually, Google, this content is for home builders, architects, whatever, and because the knowledge graph functions that way. It's it's entities, topics, which are entities, subtopics, which are children entities of entities. I've been told not to say that by people like Jonah Alderson, because in the knowledge graph, they don't have children-parent relationships. And I understand that, but it's a good way for us to think about it. It's still a relationship, and I'm just hierarchizing it because topic and subtopic is important. And then you come into the topic layer, and you look at Google Discover, and people like Jez Schultz were talking a lot about that. Phenomenally interesting. You're saying Google will start to push my content out to its users in Discover because they know that their users are interested in a specific topic, and my brand deals with that topic, that they are my audience. It knows they're my audience. That's when you get push. That's when you get pushed by Google into people's faces all the time. And if it's understood you before it's understood your competition, you get pushed first. That sounds like something dangerous in front of a train, but it's not. Getting pushed is actually a good thing.
So this is about being better than the competition, as opposed to helping out. Well, you are helping out Google by doing that, but it's actually if the competition aren't making the effort, but you are, you get rewarded, you get recognized for that.
You're helping Google to understand when you are a good solution for its users' problems. And if you look at it that way, it doesn't feel quite so debasing. But you're saying, here's a solution, and it's great, and I'm convinced it's great. Now all I've got to do is help Google understand that it's the correct solution, understand that I'm the most credible provider of that solution, and that my solution is in an appropriate format to be delivered to my user. That's my triplet. That was pretty good, wasn't it? I managed to get that into the. But your initial question was medium-sized businesses, where do you put your budget? I would say first thing you should do as soon as you get up in the morning tomorrow is look at your About Us page, rewrite it, add some schema markup, make sure that you've got that home for your entity set up. Then I would say start looking at the content you're creating. If you're writing blog posts, stop writing blog posts for a couple of days and look what content you could create for your audience where they already are hanging out, and then how you could repurpose it, repackage it for Google as a bonus.
Can you just repeat that point?
The About Us page one, or the
second one, which is about stop blogging?
I just stop writing one blog a week. You think, I have to write one blog a week. And if you look in Google Search Console, look at the figures, you've probably got 0 clicks for most of them. So it's a complete waste of time. Rather look at the next topic you were thinking about creating. Think about where your audience is hanging out: YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Medium, forums. It doesn't matter where they're hanging out. What content you can provide to them on that platform that will be helpful to their current problems. Create that content for that platform, be it short form, long form, doesn't matter, video, text, audio. Then create a longer form of content or a different form of content repurposed on your website that links out to wherever you've placed this initial piece of content. That initial piece of content also links back to you, which gives you a link, which is lovely. And then once you've repurposed the content on your site, repackage that or package that for Google so that it understands what your content is, who it's for, that it's credible, and you're away. So it's kind of turning the content model back on its head. It's saying, stop thinking about your site first. Your site is where is the bonus. Go and find your audience where they already are.
So I mean, I find that extraordinary in a way, because
extraordinarily good or extraordinarily bad?
Oh, good. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Good. So yeah, as the person who wrote a book called "Customer is King," it kind of seems blindingly obvious that the place you always start with is who is your customer, what's their hurt, need it, scratch, want, how can we help them? Go out and figure out. Show them how you can help them, and I'm not saying everything else will fall into place. But if you've got a hammer, all problems are nails, and just selling stuff. I've heard of trite phrases today. Selling stuff like pâté de foie gras, saying you need this, you need these, you need it, is the wrong way about going about it. The right way about going about it is demonstrating you understand their hurt, problem, need it, scratch, want, demonstrating how you have solved it for other people, demonstrating that you recognize the pain that they're suffering, and then letting them come towards you as opposed to banging on their door and demanding they buy from you. It kind of feels.
I think kind of the mistake a lot of people make, including myself in the past, and much less so now, is saying, I'm going to create this piece of content, find the right keywords and optimize it so that people who are searching it from Google will come to me, which gives me an enormous reliance on Google that I could probably live without, especially these days with on-SERP SEO, but also fails to see actually the content needs to serve my audience. Who are my audience? Where are they? And if I'm in any way empathetic, I'll go and find them on their platform and present to them content that's helpful to them in their environment. And one exception to that, and I found it very interesting, is FAQ sections, answering specific, simple questions. If you've got a simple, specific question that we all ask Google these simple questions, providing that answer. I started off with the idea of saying you get people also ask on your brand SERP. And the idiocy there is that a lot of the time brands have questions about their own brand answered by other brands. Or another thing that you see is that Google will show 2 or 3 questions about that brand specifically. Who is WooRank, for example? What does WooRank do? Third question will be, what is good SEO? And there you've got Moz ranking, and they're a competitor. So you say they're ranking on your brand SERP through the people also ask. So you need to create a piece of content that answers that question that beats Moz, because that's your brand SERP, it's not theirs. But then that then leads you on to, if you keep clicking on the questions, you obviously get this big long accordion coming out. Yeah. You've got the first questions you need to be answering about your brand, in terms of Google at least, because those are the questions that Google understand through your entity, through an understanding of your entity, that it understands to be related and relevant to your audience.
So
that
I'm
for me
with you.
was
So
the
I'm just going to
exception.
grab hold of a book if I can see it. Yes, I can get hold of content.
And I'll add one thing to that then, is that with the FAQ idea, you answer a simple question on your website, you then attract, you dominate your brand SERP, you get lots of feature snippets, you expand out into the wider web of Google, and then you take that content, and that's the content that you then repurpose in a longer format on another platform. So it works the other way around. So you've basically got just two pillars of content, one of which starts elsewhere and comes back, and the other which starts on yours, which is the simple questions and goes out. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I mean, I was going to say this. So there's a book called "They Ask, You Answer" by Marcus Sheridan. They ask, you answer. Okay.
Right.
And what he says is there are about 6 questions that everyone always asks about your product.
All right, yeah.
And everyone always says, well, I'm not going to answer that until we do a one-to-one, because it's a bit difficult talking about price, or it's a bit difficult talking about what makes us special, because after all, we're commoditized, or it's a bit difficult talking about competition. So he says there's 6 questions that all potential customers want to ask, which are, how much does it cost? Yeah, which are, who are your competition? Which are, what do your customers think about you? Which are, what's going to go wrong if I buy from you? Those kinds of questions. And he says, for every product that you have these they ask, you answer videos. That's his approach.
Right. Okay.
But you smother your website with answering all the questions that customers want. So actually that therefore works at a kind of a content level as well as an SEO level, in terms of giving Google the juice.
Yeah, well, I like Marcus Thingy Bob. Never heard of him, but love him, because we agree. But the thing about it is I basically identify if it's a question with a short answer, simple, evident, obvious question with a short answer, put it in your FAQ because you want to rank on Google, because you want to dominate those questions that people are searching for on Google. So Google's your primary target. Any spin-off repurposing, that's great. Look for that when you can. It's brilliant. And don't exclude videos. I mean, I have a client, they just actually, literally, they just took their YouTube channel, found all the videos that answered the questions that they were now answering in their FAQ, because I got them to build one, added it into the pages, redid the thumbnails, redid the title, so it was a little bit less product centric. Bingo, they're getting like dozens and dozens of visits from content that already exists on YouTube. Dozens a day, literally within a week, from content that already existed on YouTube. And all they did was stick it on their site and optimize it a little bit, and bingo. And that's exactly kind of where this idea of saying create it on the platform where the people are, then pull it back in. It wasn't exactly that case, but it really did push forward this idea that, and especially, sorry, when you look at the SERPs and brand SERPs, to come back to that, you see the videos appearing in the brand SERPs, you see how often they appear in the brand SERPs. You need a video strategy, full stop. I mean, it's not, you need one if you have the means, you need one, full stop. And that video strategy, I think it's 60% of the videos in the video boxes on brand SERPs come from YouTube, which is surprisingly low. Quite a lot come from Twitter and Facebook. But video, yeah, I mean, it has been the era of the video for the last 7 or 8 years, but
yeah. Well, it was a year of mobile for about 10 as well, so
True.
Okay, a couple of questions. What are agencies missing by not tracking brand SERPs?
I think they're missing probably the simplest insight, and here we come on to the third point of that trio at the beginning. It's your business card. It's a reflection of your digital ecosystem by Google, who reflects what the world thinks about you probably better than anybody else can do. And I'm a great believer. I'm the brand SERP reader and the brand SERP whisperer. I read these things off the top of my head. I've seen so many of them and so many cases that I can look at them and see, okay, this isn't balanced, this is wrong, this is right. And that's where you come into the content strategy and you say, right, if you're putting money into your video strategy, but you don't have video boxes, you're putting your money in the wrong place. If you're paying somebody full-time to work on Twitter and you don't have Twitter boxes, they're doing a bad job and they need to be pulled into some kind of productive use of Twitter, because what they're doing is unproductive, it's unconvincing. And that's the point. I mean, something like Twitter boxes, you will get Twitter boxes if Google sees that your audience, or what it perceives to be your audience, is engaging with you on Twitter. So just getting all those likes, all those reshares, if it's not your audience, Google won't trigger those Twitter boxes. So it's a great insight into the content strategy. So agencies are missing out on the easiest possible way to analyze a content strategy at a glance. Easiest possible way to figure out where there's a reputation problem, where the audience isn't on board, where clients have got a problem, i.e. the digital ecosystem that exists around them. What's ranking? If LinkedIn's ranking, but Facebook isn't, and Facebook is where your audience are hanging out, you have a problem. You need to sort that out. That's a priority. And then the third one is obviously, I mean, for me, I can't believe that people don't think this is important. If I've got 50,000 visits a month, and 30,000 of those visits come from brand searches, I'm an idiot if I haven't made that brand SERP look as good as possible. Accurate, positive, and convincing. It's your new clients, it's investors, it's partners, it's potential hires. It's, I think I said prospects already, and it's your existing clients who are navigating to your site potentially multiple times a day. And they see that and it sticks little by little. Whatever message that brand SERP sends to them is going to stick in their brain. And if it's bad, you're going to lose the client.
Love it. So,
there you go.
Jason? What next? I mean, I'm still, I have a very small brain, so it takes me a while to absorb this stuff.
Sorry, I have a very small brain, but it's been working for 7 years on this.
So what next for you, Jason? What's in the pipeline?
Well, I've got my brand SERP courses. My idea for that is to say, I've learned so much from working on clients, from working on myself, and I've been doing experiments, which I'll tell you in a moment about, that I've packaged it up and put it into courses so that people can actually learn what I've learned. Now, if you're an SEO, you'll say, well, I know all this stuff, how to trigger site links and how to get video boxes and how to change a meta title and how to change the title of my social channel. But what you'll find is that there's lots of details that you will have missed, and I've made the mistakes. And this is a way to breeze through them, avoid those mistakes, because I've made them all. And I'll give you a few of them. I mean, I do experiments on myself. I used to be in a punk folk band, so we can call that poke music. I was a double bass player. We sold 20,000 albums, double bass. We've done 20,000 albums. We've probably seen about 100,000 people over 6 years. We toured professionally for 6 years. Then I made a cartoon, Blue Dog and Yellow Koala, for kids. We had 5 million visits a month to the site, TV series on ITV International, 25 countries, big success. 3 Wikipedia articles, one for me, one for the group, one for the cartoon characters. Somebody decided that he would experiment on the Wikipedia pages to see how Google reacted every time I changed anything. And after a while, the Wikipedia editors got bored and annoyed. And within the space of a week, they deleted my article, then the group's article, and then the characters article. All 3 are notable. They were allowed to delete it because I had messed with them too much. So I kind of sacrificed myself on the altar of Wikipedia to understand how knowledge panels work, how Google relies on them on Wikipedia, how much it relies on it, how much do you need it? And the answer is actually not much. And I was talking to Rand Fishkin about it, and he said he actually got his Wikipedia article deleted because he was saying, I don't want these people controlling what's being said about me, what Google understands about me, what the world understands about me, because they don't know. They got it wrong. And he actually said, and I like this, if I want to know what happened in the 7th episode of the 8th season of Star Trek, Wikipedia, great place to go. If I want to know who founded Moz, with whom, and how much investment has gone into it, definitely don't want to know it from Wikipedia because it's all wrong. And what happened for me is, in fact, my page got deleted and I lost the description in the knowledge panel. I panicked. I moved my schema markup that was on my site to another page. My knowledge panel completely disappeared. I went right out of the knowledge graph, and then I had to build the presence back up. I had to build that understanding back up, not from nothing, because there is a residue of memory, or whatever you'd call it. So I made that mistake. Don't ever do that. Advice number 1. With the Barking Dogs, the group from the 90s, I kept everything as it was. And the description switched within 2 weeks from Wikipedia to my own site. And that's where I could change the description in a knowledge panel, the information in a knowledge panel within 8 minutes, because I changed it on my site. And as I said earlier on, but Turing, whichever, the algorithm that goes into these pages and summarizes them and chooses the summary, which is the snippet algorithm, which actually serves the featured snippet, which is logical, but also serves the knowledge panel, means you can update the knowledge panel in minutes, which is an astonishing insight. So that was really interesting. The other thing is the confidence score went up and up and up and up. Because what had happened is that the Wikipedia article had got confused, and on my site it wasn't confused. Right. And for the blue dog and the other koala, absolutely not. Well, I got the description in the knowledge panel. Once again, I gained control of my entity. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to have words with my people.
Which people?
All the people who look after all our digital assets here, because I'm kind of feeling more and more uncomfortable as the interview goes on, as I think through what we're doing and what we've done and how it looks. So,
well, I mean, what's lovely about it, all of this, absolutely all of it, the solutions are really simple.
Yeah, I get that. Which brings me on to the final question, which, I mean, because our time is up, which is, we go out for a meal. You remember the days. We go out for a meal in Paris. I had my favorite restaurant in Paris in a beautiful little square down past the boulevard. We go to my favorite restaurant. We eat phenomenally wonderful French food, delicious French wine, 2 bottles between the two of us, because
you like your wine.
Nice thing to do, and I like wine. Brandy at the end of the meal. We come out of the restaurant, and I look at you and say, if you were me, yeah, what do you do? So what I'm looking for is what are your kind of your golden nuggets, the kind of pearls of wisdom, your one-liners that everyone should get their pens out and be scribbling away frantically on.
Well, I mean, my pearls of wisdom are all the triplets I've gone on about. I mean, I actually have a friend called Dave Clayton, who's a teacher at A-level students in Dewsbury in the north of England. And he said to me, say everything in triples, everything needs to be in threes. If you say it in 4, they'll forget the 4th, and probably forget the other 3 as well. If you say it in 2, it doesn't seem important enough. So even if you don't have a third thing, make it up. And he's right, 100%. So you need to look at your SEO, you need to package your content for Google and think about just 3 things. And this is 3 things empathetically, i.e. you're thinking about it from Google's point of view. It needs to understand, you need to help it understand, you need to help it understand that you're credible, you need to convince it of your credibility, and you need to ensure that your content is deliverable and it understands that it's deliverable. From your point of view, that just means explaining, using schema markup, great text, semantic triples in your text, context clouds, all of these things that we talk about in SEO, but probably never do very much of. Ensure that you are actually credible, i.e. your audience and your peers appreciate you. And one good way to figure out if your audience and your peers appreciate you, is to look at your brand SERP and go through the first 5 pages and see what rubbish comes up. And if it's rubbish, don't just say, oh, Google's got it wrong, because it probably hasn't. Take a step back and think, why does it think that is valuable and relevant to my audience? So that idea of understanding credibility and deliverability is, for me, phenomenally important. The second one would be to take a step back on your content and start looking at it from this: which content should be put out on the platforms my users are on and brought back to the site for repurposing, and which should be answered on the site, short questions, and then repurposed elsewhere. Another one is take your brand SERP seriously, because it does show you, it's your business card, so it does hit your bottom line. If you've got, as we said earlier on, 30,000 of your 50,000 visits from Google a month are on your brand SERP, it's the most important SERP in your business. It has to look good. It's a reflection of your ecosystem, which comes back to looking at your reputation, and it's a reflection of your content strategy, where it's strong, where it's weak, where it's going right, where it's going wrong. And Google is probably the best reflection we have for that. And then the last point is, look on that right-hand side if you don't have a knowledge panel. Oh, and by the way, when I say knowledge panel, I don't mean Google My Business listings. I hate it when people say that's a knowledge panel. It isn't. Or 99.9% of the time it isn't. There are some exceptions. But having a Google My Business, it's a business listing where you provide information. Google does not check it. Google just shows it under your good faith. A knowledge panel is something that Google has understood through informing itself, finding corroborative evidence to prove that this is right. It's a fact. It's something that Google knows to be true, or thinks it knows to be true. Sometimes it gets it wrong, obviously. And the difference is enormous, because Google My Business, I can just go and fill it in today, and in an hour it's done, and I can go home and do whatever I do at home. Building up a knowledge panel is creating that home, informing Google, adding the right content, adding that schema markup, and then pointing to the corroborative evidence. Now, Google can, as John Mueller rightly says, do that on its own. It doesn't need your help, but it goes much faster and it's much more solid when you do it yourself. And most importantly, you get control of that entity.
Brilliant. Well, I'm just writing that down.
Okay. Oh, you could actually watch this back. Apparently you can watch it in replay.
I think lots of people are going to watch it back because I think it's been absolutely great. My brain feels slightly fried, but that's just me. So much content, so much richness. That's absolutely fantastic. People can find out about you at the end in the links.
Just look for the red shirt.
Look for the red shirt, and of course the knowledge panel. The best knowledge panel in the world.
I might possibly have been exaggerating a little bit there.
Well, many people believe that. Thank you so much for being a really great guest. Thank you so much for your passion and your enthusiasm for your subject. And thanks for really kind of informing us and kind of giving a lot of people a bit of a bang to the head in terms of what they're doing and what they're not doing right.
Well,
Jason,
thank you for asking all the best questions, and thank you for listening and laughing when I say something even remotely funny. I like people who laugh.
Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you so much for being a great guest. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Bye.